We didn't do this at the beginning, and I am so upset with myself.
Uh-oh.
But I want to thank all of you
Oh, yeah.
that have served our country and
Good
have
call.
made the sacrifice and have chosen a life that a lot of people like me don't have the courage to do, so that we can stand here and do things like this. So all of you out there, and I know we have a lot of veterans in our show, and I am sorry that that's not what we led with. I was so fired up about this game, I completely forgot.
We led with it on the last
but
show, and
yes,
so like I didn't
yes,
even think about it
yes.
because it was kind of rolled in
That's
one for
on
the
me.
other.
But
Yeah.
you guys are we like to lift up celebrities and famous people, and that's who we get to, endorse candidates and do all this stuff. And it's a battle to see which person whose opinion I care the least about. We're lifting up to vote for. But the true heroes in our country are those who choose to serve, because it is a choice. And we had a foreign exchange student from Germany when I was a kid, and they had to serve. When you were a male, you had to, at 18, you had to spend time in some capacity. In our country, it is a wholly volunteer army. And to all of you, I tip my cap. I offer my thanks. And just know that you are appreciated and loved, even though maybe we don't always say it as much as we can. But I do want to wish a happy Veterans Day to all of you out there in this community, because I've learned over the years how many we have, Vince, active and no longer active. Our guy Garen Knutson is currently serving. He's out there. We're thinking about him, but then also all those who are no longer serving as well. So all of our veterans, we appreciate you. We thank you. It's because of people like you defending this bad boy right here, right, that we're able to have the freedoms we have to sit here and enjoy this type of thing and talk about Notre Dame football. So thank you.
No doubt. Yep. I thanked Sean earlier today, since he's a veteran, and my brother's a veteran, and so there's veterans all over the place, and you could not have said it better yourself. Than I don't have the courage to do that. You know what I mean? I put myself in harm's way with teenagers. I am not willing to do what you guys do, and so I am eternally grateful for what you guys do, and allowing us to do this, and allowing me to be able to sleep at night, and my kids to be able to sleep at night without any fear whatsoever. And so I am in your debt forever, and I appreciate it very, very much. So, all right. So here we go, everybody. Let's go move on to the next part of our show. Nice smooth segue there. We are going to revisit the offensive keys to victory that were discussed earlier in the week. And this is one of the things that we like to do. And so we're going to do offensive keys first. Then we're going to hit our defensive keys as well. And then we've got kind of a fun segment, and then maybe another segment. You know what? We might just go all night. I'm not sure. So this is going to be great. We got all kinds of good stuff coming for you guys. So
you're the one that said it. We could go all night. So now you challenge accepted.
I've opened up Pandora's box.
Here we go. Challenge accepted. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this.
Oh, man. All right, let's jump into those offensive keys to victory, Bryan. And, frankly, we're going to start out with one that probably isn't going to get a lot of praise, and that is start fast on offense. And at one point during the game on Saturday, you texted me. You're like, well, it's going to be a minus right off the bat.
And it is. It was definitely a minus.
Yeah, not a good start.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. I mean, it just was one of those things, Vince, where it was just frustrating kind of watching them early, because it wasn't that they weren't playing hard.
Sure.
Like I said, I think they played hard from start to finish. They were just sloppy. It was just, Riley missing. First drive was good, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I love the
5
third
plays,
down
75
call.
yards.
Yeah, third down call was great. Hitting Aeneas, he read it perfectly, got the ball out. Aeneas, did what he did. The O-line, you could tell right away, wasn't necessarily, really going to move Florida State a whole lot. Pass pro was okay, solid for the most part, not great, not bad. But after that first drive, it was just sloppy. Drop passes. It wasn't anything that Florida State necessarily did. It just was drop passes, not making the right reads. Guys are open and not seeing them, and just some of that. What I could be wrong, but I attribute it to kind of just coming out of the bye. Just you were hot, just shaking off the rust a little bit, and it was a night game. You hadn't played one of those in a while. It was windy, all those different excuses you could come up with. And you had been off the field for a while after that. I mean, you went on that first opening drive and you didn't get the ball back for 7 minutes of game time. It was much more than that in real time. And, you know, you come out in 1st and 10 on the second drive. Jeremiah Love drops a pass. You know, Riley misses a read on 3rd down. He throws the ball high against Mitchell. You come out the second drive. You go -1 on a rush play. You throw a little swing pass. It goes for -2. Riley misses a read on 3rd down again. All of a sudden you're punting. And then Jadarian Price is like, hold on, fellas. I got this. You know what I mean? And that sequence, too, was something that I really was excited about, Vince, because what happened on that sequence was, again, is indicative of why this is such a good football team. So on the 2-yard run, Jadarian's 2-yard run, I believe that was the run where no, hold on. Was it the previous drive?
So you're talking about
it was the previous drive. It was the -1 yard carry by Jeremiah Love the drive before Anthony Knapp gets hurt.
Right.
Tosh Baker comes in, and on the first play of the second drive, Tosh drives a guy off the ball, and Jadarian Price cuts right behind him for a 17-yard gain, which kind of sparked the offense, and they had a 2-yard gain. That was the end of the first quarter. Then Anthony came in. His first play, him and Billy Schrouth have a great double team. Bo Collins, who didn't do a whole lot in the pass game, had a couple catches, wasn't overly targeted.
Right.
But Bo comes down and has a huge block on the safety, and Jadarian just follows those blocks and then he does his thing. And like in the past, a lot of Jadarian's runs were like, that dude's a freak. Look at the great move he made. On that particular run, he had to make a guy miss the line, kind of. But it was the whole way. He just kind of don't let that guy squeeze on you. And he stayed right on that track, and then he outruns the defense. So it wasn't like the Florida State, the A&M run where he had to make a guy miss in the second level. It wasn't like the Purdue run where he had to make a guy listen the first level. It just was like, this is how it's supposed to be. And, just like, so Knapp goes down. Tosh comes in, does his job, and then Knapp comes back, and it's just like and opens up a hole for the number 2 running back, so to speak. Although I still say 1A, 1B, but I'm making a point. And you're just like, that's why they're blowing this team out, even though they're sloppy, because everybody's out competing, everybody's doing their job, and when they do their job right, things like that happen.
Right.
And it was like that on Riley's touchdown. Pat Coogan, the first touchdown, Pat Coogan, is there. Nobody comes. So what does Pat do? Pat immediately takes off to that middle linebacker, smacks him, and Riley cuts right outside of him. And Pat was like, I'm not sure who to block. What am I supposed to do? Then Riley might get tackled by that linebacker. But Pat, I got nobody blocked. Nobody's coming to A-gaps. I'm going to you, buddy. Bring it on. And he did it aggressively, pops the guy, and he lets Riley do his thing. And so the O-line as a whole didn't block well, Vince. But when they did, you saw things like that. So, that allowed them to, and then they had a missed field goal. You had 2 3-and-outs. It was a sloppy first half.
Oh, yeah.
You should have had 21 points by your 3rd drive. Let's be honest. Let's just be real about this. You should have had 21 points no later than your 4th drive. But by your 4th drive, you only had 14 points.
Correct.
So, no, they get a minus. I mean, they did what they needed to do to get to play their role in a big win. That late second quarter drive was huge. If you go into halftime up 14-3 or 17-3, it's not in doubt, but it's just going to be a sloppy win.
Yep.
Florida, that we were talking about wins. What's the moment the Florida State quits? It was that, plus then Notre Dame coming out the second half and just quickly.
Then they were just rolling at that point.
And then it was over. Get was it what drive was it that Clark had the pick? Was it? Yeah, his first drive. Jordan Clark makes the pick. Notre Dame's offense goes and puts it in the end zone. Ball game. Like they ran a screen on 3rd and 11, and Jaden Greathouse turned it into a first down. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, it's ball game. But they had kind of already started the quitting process.
Oh,
and it was because of that final drive of the second quarter.
Right. And the way the game kind of played out, Notre Dame did go up 14-3, obviously on that big Price drive, but then the next. I realize we're talking offense right now, but game flow situation for me, I want to bring up. They go down, they score the big run, and then the next series is when Howard Cross goes down, and Mills gets those 2 sacks in a row, and they force a crappy punt as well. And it's like, okay, yes, they're only up 14-3, but this defense is eaten. They're headhunting at this point, and there's nothing that Florida State's going to be able to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No.
So at that point, I was like, okay, let's see how this thing goes
Yeah.
at this point. But yes, the offense started way too slow. And after scoring the 14 points, it was like, okay, all right, let's see what the offense does now. And it got kind of iffy there for the next few drives.
Yeah.
Until the final drive of the half, and then they roll at that point. You know what I mean? And the defense just kept eating the whole time. You know what I mean? So
it was a lot of the same thing. You know, Riley just wasn't reading the defense as well as he had been in previous. It's like the 3rd and 3 on the drive after Jadarian's. They run a motion, and they're basically running 2 option routes and slides, and he just locked it on the left side. Once the motion happened, he should have looked right side. That's where the read should have taken him, and if he would have, Bo Collins is a guy within 5 yards of him. Right. You know, it's just stuff like that. That's all correctable. That's just, every quarterback has that day. Everyone. You know, and he had his, but he still made the plays he needed to make. But it just was stuff like that kept, you know, a missed block here, a drop there. It was everybody contributed to just an overall sloppiness
100%.
in the first half. But the talent took over, Vince.
Yes.
And that was the big thing where they were able to kind of put that drive away. And even that drive was sloppy. You know, you got into 3rd down early and you had to get a 1st down. You got into a 3rd and 17. Because your quarterback gets sacked, and then you have a pass breakup, and then you got to convert on 4th down. Then you get into a 3rd and 10, you know, 4th and 10. You're gonna punt, and this is what I want to talk about it now. That was such great in-game play calling because, and I know you guys talked about it, so I won't talk about it a whole lot.
No, you're good.
Freeman's awareness of they called timeout on 4th and 10. So if we send our offense back out there, they can't call timeout again because of the new rule change that you can't call back-to-back timeouts like you used to. That was such a great move by Freeman. And to send the offense back out there, but they didn't rush. They didn't get up, let's get up there really quickly. Like, get up there with some tempo, make sure you see what's going on. And then Florida State's looking around, they're not sure what's going on. And then Riley goes and makes, and it's a great read. It was the best read he made all game. Because that was not his initial read. He was poised. He came backside. He hits Jordan Faison, moves the chains. Great play call. But Freeman, they sending the field goal team out was the right move. It was 4th and 10. You're at your own 34. It's only you need to get that score right before the end of the half. You needed it, right? But when they called timeout, and that was such a one of his best in-game sequences I've seen from Marcus Freeman when it comes to managing a game and managing the situations. It was one of the best sequence of events that we've seen from him. And then also you get that 1st down, you immediately line up and you go to your go-to guy and you throw a touchdown pass and it's ball game. That was big.
Oh, it's massive. It was absolutely massive. Remind me to tell you something about that a little bit later, Brian. All right. So let's move on to the second key to victory going into the game. And it was win up the middle, get the run game going. And I think we can all agree that the run game was in good hands on Saturday. Had over 200 yards rushing, and at one point, now obviously the big run by Jadarian Price and the big run by Riley Leonard,
which was a pass play.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Right. I mean, so they didn't rush for 201 yards. You know, they ran for about 160-ish in the game. Right. But
fair enough. Yeah.
I give it a check, Vince. I mean, they did what they needed to do. They didn't dominate up the middle. They didn't. But they didn't get dominated. And that was my fear, is that Jackson and Farmer would just kind of wake up and just dominate. And they didn't. And it was a very inefficient game. I'll have my run game data coming out tomorrow, but it was a very inefficient game. They were sub 50% in run game efficiency, but they did what they needed to do. You know, I mean, that's the reality of it, Vince, is they did what they needed to do. And like you said, ended the game with 201 rushing yards and 6.3 yards per carry. Notre Dame has had so many. How was the run performance? It was all right. They ran for 270. I was like, I know, but it just didn't feel like they were just like the 2017 team. You're just like, oh my gosh, they're just destroying people. We haven't seen that a whole lot from this team, Vince, but it's just like, and then you look down and you're like, okay, 362, 270, 229, 265, 201, and just like they just keep racking up yards.
I know.
You know what I mean? And it's
eventually you gotta be like, well, Okay.
Right.
I mean,
like this is who they are, and it's pretty
Yeah,
good. It
right.
doesn't maybe look as sexy as that team, but like
Sure.
as good as that 2017 offensive line was, Vince, they averaged 6.25 yards per carry. This team's at 5.98. Not that far off.
Right.
And you just have to kind of say, like, dude, they just do what they need to do. This is not going to be a super efficient Audric Estime-ish type of run game. It's going to be a flashy, big play, run hard, but big play type of offense. That's just what it is. Yep. And when they're efficient, they're untouchable. When they're not efficient, they're still going to get their yards. And by the way, Notre Dame has 5 games of 200 rushing yards through 9 games. 5 of those games they've had 200 rushing yards. Last year, they only had 4 the whole season. And in 2022, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they have in 13 games. So they're only 2 off of that year with Coach Heastan. But if you go back and kind of look over the years, they had 3 in 2021. They had 5, 6, 7 in 2020 and 12 games. So like they're on pace to have 200 plus yards in some years where we thought that team was pretty good running the football. But there's also the game against A&M where they ran for 198. So you just kind of look at it and you're like, this team just every week just puts in that work, and does what they need to do on the ground.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there talking about how a 201 yard performance with 6.3 yards per carry. I was like, it's all right. I give him a check. It's all right. But they didn't get the push I hoped that they would get. Sure. But they did it. But they weren't getting beat because they weren't they were relatively assignment correct for the most part. They just weren't. Those big boys were. They couldn't move those big boys like they needed to consistently enough. But they did their job, so I give them a check, Vince.
Yeah, I'm with you on the check.
And that's the standard, though. I mean, isn't that kind of crazy, though? We're sitting there talking about 201 yards and 6.3 per carry. We're just like, it was all right. This is solid.
And I think for me, when I was thinking about the run game and all of that, they had 101 yards in the second quarter alone. You know what I mean? It was like,
thanks to a 65-yard.
Oh, I get it.
And most of that came in 3 plays. You had the 17-yard run. Like Jadarian by himself had 85 yards on 3 carries and 1 drive.
Because he's the only one that touched the ball those 3 plays.
And they only had 16 rushing yards the rest of the quarter. But those still count, right?
Exactly.
You know what I mean, Vince? Like those big plays still
count. And
and
that's the thing about this team is no matter who's in the backfield, there could be a big play lurking around every corner. That's the thing. And that's the exciting part of this offense is that these guys are big play able. Any guy that touches the football, except for maybe Devin Ford, is a big play possible guy. And so whether they're going to get the ball thrown to them,
Kedron,
handed, all of them. And that's the thing. So I think it still makes this team extremely dangerous in the run game because at any point, a guy can rip one off.
That's my one concern, however, in the postseason is can they live off that for 4 games in the postseason? They're going to have to start being more efficient at some point in time running the football. And I think as this offensive line gels a little bit more, the new look, because this is only their second game together, this version of the offensive line, it's only their second game together.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
you
part
hope
of it.
You hope that'll kind of get better and better and better.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely part of it. Let's move on to key number 3. Force them to make decisions, run tempo, movement, post-snap switches, mix up the backfield action, etc. So forcing the Florida State defense to adjust to what you're doing, you're meaning the Notre Dame offense. So make them adjust to you. What do you think?
I give them a check. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was good. I mean, there was a lot of movement. They worked with a decent pace. Mixed up some backfield action, like they ran a quick pitch during the game, which didn't work, but it kind of said, hey, we're going to do some different things. There was I think I saw like 1 orbit motion in there, a lot of movement with the backs, emptying the backs out, a lot of things like that. The screens were well designed. They had the one play, the throw to Greathouse, I believe it was on the third down call where Riley kind of, I think he rolled right and then threw back to Greathouse.
Yep.
On a screen. That's a really well-designed play because I think they threw that away from where Jeremiah Love was. I'm going to have to now go look at the play.
Isn't that the one where they faked it to Greathouse first and then threw it to him. Was that the one I'm
That might have been the orbit motion that I was talking about. I'm going to try to find that
Yeah.
play here, Vince. But I mean, that was like one of those things where it's like, okay, good design. You got
Yeah.
them a little bit on their heels, and so I mean, there was good stuff there, Vince. With that, it was good. Like it wasn't. Oh man, plus like he was in his bag today. But at the same time, I think it became kind of early on. I felt like Coach Denbrock knew he didn't necessarily need that. Like to really get too deep into the weeds type of thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But no, I mean overall it was a good performance. I'm gonna try to find that play. But
Yeah. No, I was happy with it. I thought that at the beginning of the game, I wasn't really sure kind of how they were going about some things offensively. And I was like, okay, I guess, you kind of know what you want to attempt to do here. And then they finally just got into the rhythm of what I think they do well. Now, I think there was also a concerted effort to get Jaden Greathouse the football in this game. I think there was a concerted effort to get Mitchell Evans the football in this game. I think that appeared to be pretty clear to me. And they did some different things to get them the football. When was the last time we saw, Mitchell Evans on a fade into the end zone? You know what I mean? Like, great play call. I love the matchup mismatch in Notre Dame's favor, and they obviously took advantage of it. And it was a great touch throw by Riley, just right over the shoulder there. But you could have put a multitude of guys in that spot to make that play, and it was like, nope, this is going to be Mitchell Evans' ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there was like the other. Yeah, you're spot on. There was the other play too, Vince, where they like it was. Actually, it was third quarter. The play to Greathouse was third quarter. But like there was the play where the second quarter where on that final drive, the play that he hits Jaden Harrison, where they're in a look, but then Riley makes a motion and then they simultaneously kind of squeeze down, right? And then quickly line up, snap the ball, and then guess what? Jaden Harrison kind of comes free for a big play. It may not seem like, oh wow, look how super exotic that was, but it ended up working. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's not the play that I'm thinking. I'm gonna have to try to find that play to Jaden Greathouse, but it was because it was a 3rd and 6 actually, and they converted a 3rd and 6. It wasn't the 20-yard gain. That was just on a little tunnel screen. But
was it the first half?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm pretty sure it was, but there was just a lot of stuff like that, Vince, where you just watched them play and you're just like, you know what? Like they're doing a good job here. It's not lighting the world on fire. It's not, oh my gosh, this team is this is Mike Denbrock at his absolute pinnacle and all that. It wasn't that. It just was. It was good. It was good.
Yeah.
They did what they needed to do.
And I think with each passing game that you're seeing the comfort level between Riley Leonard and Mike Denbrock, and you mentioned the back and forth they had on the sideline. Look, the game was over at that point from a score standpoint, and he's still coaching them, and he's starting to understand how he can coach Riley Leonard and what works and what doesn't work. And I don't want to say the regular season was kind of a testing ground, but it kind of was. You know what I mean? And it took them about half the season to kind of figure each other out, and it was a two-way street. And I think they're there now. And, that's why Mike Denbrock is holding him to such a high standard on the sideline right now. We didn't see those kinds of interactions early on in the season because I think there were times where Mike Denbrock was asking Riley Leonard to do things he's just not great at. You know what I mean? Or it didn't fit with what they were trying to do or whatever the case may be. Now you're seeing Mike Denbrock call plays that he knows that Riley Leonard is comfortable with and that he can execute and he should be executing it. And when he doesn't, he's going to get on him. And I think that's awesome. I think that's fantastic. So they're in a good place right now offensively. And I think that's a good sign. That's a good sign. Final offensive key to victory. Go big play hunting. Jadarian Price went big play hunting.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that. I mean, because like big play, what I refer to as that, Vince, it was more so like I want you to look for the big plays, like find ways to do the big plays, and I think that was a success. I do. I think that was a successful type of look. It was. I'm gonna try to find it, but There was another third down conversion where they motioned Jaden Greathouse ran like a zip motion and then goes back out and runs like a clear and then an under route on 3rd and 1, gets first down, like just stuff like that. It's nothing rocket science, but it just was, that's good play design. That's good play design. So it was just things like that. But
well, the big play hunting, I thought Jaden Harrison got involved in some big plays. I thought Jordan Faison got involved in some big plays. You know, they were obviously getting the ball to Jaden Greathouse for big plays. Like, I do think they kind of chunked some plays in this one.
I found that play, Vince, and it was an attempt to rip off a big play. They ended up getting 10 on it. But basically, they lined up in a 3-by-1 with the tight end in a wing position in a flex alignment. Jaden Greathouse outside. He goes in. That's the orbit motion play. Riley Leonard fakes the reverse to Greathouse, rolls right like they're going to run a sling to Jeremiah Love, throws a screen backside, and Jaden catches it, makes some guys miss, ends up getting 10 yards, over 10 yards on the play, 10 yards on the play.
Was that the second and 7?
Yeah, you're trying to get a first down on that. And so that was a big play opportunity. You had some other missed ones. You ran an inside post to Jaden Greathouse. That was meant to be a touchdown pass. You had 2 deep balls to Jaden Harrison. You had a deep ball to Bo Collins. It was actually a great play. Did you see that play? The back shoulder he threw to Bo Collins. The DB, number 8, the tall kid, Thomas, reaches back and like he's beat. And he just he had some long arms and he gets his hand on the football. It's like, that's just a heck of a play. Sometimes you tip your cap to the other kid. That's a heck of a play.
Yep.
And Bo didn't do anything wrong. I didn't evaluate it as doing anything wrong. I mean, Riley maybe could have put the ball 2 inches higher, I guess. But sometimes you just got to look, hey, man, that's a heck of a play. Had great coverage, and he broke it up. But there were certainly some opportunities that they were looking for, getting Jeremiah Love out in space in the pass game, clearly an attempt to get him. One of the plays they had, I think it was second or third quarter, where he hit Jeremiah Love on a slant route. They were clearly, they had been doing a lot of motioning Jeremiah and then working him on out cuts. They were clearly trying to get the DB to bite on that and then free Jeremiah up over the middle. DB played it well. Guy covered Jeremiah well. Riley still put it right on the money, and Jeremiah made a tough catch for a 15-yard gain. That was an attempt to rip off a big play. They defended it well, and it still went for 15. So I give him a check. I give him a check for this. I mean, and if I give him a check for big game hunting, and I give him a plus for big plays.
Okay.
Right? So, you know what I'm saying? Because
that's different. Because a bit like the touchdown run by Riley Leonard was a big play, but it wasn't a called play.
No, it wasn't. It was
you know what I mean?
It was the 65-yard touchdown run. You're not doing thinking, hey, we're going to – hey, every time you call a run play to Jeremiah Love or Jadarian Price, you know they have a shot to rip it off, but that's not
correct.
On
paper, it's usually written up that it could break away. You know, you know what I mean?
Of course. But you're running inside zone. It's not geared to okay, if we run inside zone here, we're going to go for 65. But so it turned out to be that way.
Right.
So that's where I'm at.
Well, that's going to do for our offensive revisit of the game. So make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, that notification bell, share with your family and friends, and of course, jump on the boards@irishbreakdown.com for all of your breaking news and discussions and all the fun stuff that is Notre Dame football. You're not going to get a better bang for your buck than being over at Irish Breakdown and the boards over there, the premium member area. So boards@irishbreakdown.com, and you can join the fun.